Why am I struggling to write my dissertation? I'm not as far along as I'd like to be. And yeah, I know that I've been putting it off, but when I do sit down to work on it, I just don't know where to start. Does this sound familiar? If this is you, you are certainly not alone. Everyone, and I mean everyone, experiences dissertation writer's block. Yes, everyone. Even Amanda from your research methods class, who's like,
Yeah, I write 1,000 words a week and it just flows out of me. I never have writer's block.
you shouldn't listen to Amanda because, quite frankly, Amanda is full of shit. But what can you do when you've hit the writing wall? Keep watching because I'm going to help pull you out of that not writing ditch that you've fallen into. Here's what I'll be covering. We're going to start off looking at the concept of deep work, then the concept of surface work. We'll move on to look at how to achieve a balance between the two and how to batch like a badass. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and I've spent the last 20 years working in UK universities, supporting students through their dissertations and producing my own academic research, including all of these books and journal articles popping up around my head right now. I had a writing block, sometimes multiple writing blocks, on all of these projects, so I know exactly what it feels like. I've learned how to smash through them, and I've taught my dissertation students how to do the same, and I want to help you get past them too, so let's crack on. A dissertation, just like any assignment or project, involves deep work and surface work. So what's deep work? Deep work is the intensive, heavy concentration stuff that you really need to focus on. Deep work tasks when it comes to your dissertation involve things like critically analysing a piece of academic literature or writing up your discussion chapter. To do them, you need to be somewhere quiet where you're not going to be disturbed without any distractions. Because these tasks aren't things that you can pick up and put down and flit in and out of, you need to get into a flow state with them. In other words, be completely absorbed in what you're doing, be in the zone. These tasks are creative, they're analytical. The term dig deep comes to mind when I talk about them because you've got to kind of mine your brain's reserves to do them. And that term, dig deep, thinking of where I've heard that before, in HIIT classes, high intensity interval training. A veritable sweat fest of star jumps and push-ups and running on the spot and burpees and planks and the like. Yeah, you've got to dig deep for that, so that's the deep work. Surface work, which I tend to call admin, is quite different. If deep work is a 1-hour HIIT class, surface work is more like a series of gentle walks. For example, scanning through a chapter you've drafted to make sure that you've used the correct format for the in-text referencing, checking that there aren't any typos, searching for literature, organising your notes into folders. Surface work involves different kinds of tasks. With surface work, you've still got to concentrate on it, but it doesn't matter so much if there's the odd distraction. It's no bother if it's not deathly silent, because these tasks are very easy to pick up and put down. Whilst you're in a flow state with the deep work, you need to stay in that state with momentum to achieve the level of depth required for those tasks. But surface work, it's not quite the same. It doesn't require the same level of creative or analytical thinking because these tasks are simple. They're systematized. There's already some kind of standardized process you use to achieve them. Or if there isn't, you can develop one quite quickly. If any of this is resonating with you and you're like, yeah, that's interesting, tell me more. Take a moment to click that like button down there because it really does make a huge difference in ensuring that other dissertation students can find this video too. When you're doing a dissertation, you need to strike a balance between deep work and surface work in order to keep pushing forwards and making progress. Many students make the mistake of dedicating too much time to the deep work or planning to do so. The deep work is heavy going stuff, it is exhausting, and whilst you do need some significant chunks of time on it, you shouldn't really do that for more than a few hours because it's really tiring. And what tends to happen is after a couple of sessions of deep work, you're like, I don't know whether I can do that today. And that can be something that leads to procrastination. And you start to feel bad that you didn't work on your dissertation when you'd planned to. You feel like you're slipping behind. There's an urgency and a pressure to get back into it, but maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. However, if you were to sprinkle in the odd bit of surface work in between those deep work sessions, you will give yourself a break from the hard stuff, but still feel like you're making progress because you're getting those little administrative tasks done. You need to do those things because they will contribute to a top quality dissertation. And one way you're not scrambling around at the end because you've got to check your page numbering and your references and read through for typos. You do not have to do deep work every time you sit down with your dissertation. You can do some surface work instead. Dissertations involve a lot of critical analysis, evaluation, interpretation, synthesis, all of which exercise your grey matter like a freaking HIT class. But dissertations also involve lots of little things as well, which don't require as much depth. The gentle walk to the shops, the stroll around the park. If the only type of exercise you ever do is HIT classes, you know what's going to happen? You are going to end up hating HIT classes. You are going to end up dreading them and finding reasons not to go. Same with walking too. You're going to get sick of that if that is all you ever do. But if you switch them around, something magical happens. You start looking forward to them. You can see that you've got a deep work day coming up later in the week, and you've not done one for a few days. Yesterday, you did some surface work. So your brain has had time to recover from that previous deep work session. And in that time, your brain has actually been doing some stuff in the background, subconsciously. Yes, that's a thing. And you might have found that some ideas have come to the surface about where you might go next with your literature review, or something you might want to look at in your discussion chapter. So you're kind of like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of looking forward to that deep work session. Wow, never thought I'd hear myself say that. And then when you've had a session or two of deep work, you'll find yourself looking forward to spending a couple of hours proofreading, or checking your references, or doing a literature search. It's all about the balance, everything in moderation. The last thing I want to talk about is a practical way of doing both deep work and surface work. Batch it. BATCH space IT. When I was dictating my notes for this video into my phone the other day, it kept typing batshit. BAT space SHIT. Maybe it was trying to tell me something, a subliminal message from the universe. Bit rude, but noted. Anyway, back to batching. Batching is a technique that will save you oodles of time, whether you're doing deep work or surface work. What is batching? It's essentially grouping similar tasks together and doing them in the same block of time without any interruptions. You can batch deep work and you can batch surface work. Examples of batching the surface work include searching for literature. Say you're working on a particular section of your literature review, perhaps as a part of it exploring routine activity theory. So you need to find some literature about that. But later in the literature review, one of your sections is about crime prevention, so you need some stuff to read on that as well. And whilst you're thinking about it, is there any literature you need to find relating to your methods chapter? You might as well look for all of this in one search session while you're in that zone. And if you need help on exactly how to search for relevant, scholarly, academically valid literature, check out this video. Organising your notes is another example. If you've been reviewing literature or researching what method to use and making notes about that in a lot of different places. So says the woman with about 4 notebooks on the go at the moment. You could spend one of your surface work sessions getting them organised into one folder, or looking for a notes app that you can use to just dump stuff into. Another example is reading through drafts of your work, correcting typos or grammar. If you're doing this for one chapter, you might as well do it for any other stuff you've got written up too. Which raises another point. Why not save up the proofreading until you've got a couple of chapters that you're happy with and you can crack through both of them in one session? Referencing is yet another example. Reading through what you've written, marking up the parts where you need to tidy up your referencing. Do this for multiple chapters, and again, maybe save it all up. Save a few chapters to do at the same time, or save it all up until the end. So you've got something that you can blast through once you need a break from that deep work. We're going to take a look at examples of batching the deep work in just a moment. But before we do, if you're finding this video helpful so far and you're like, I would like to see more of her videos, her stuff is quite helpful, hit that subscribe button down there, join the Degree Doctor party, and you won't miss any of my little weekly nuggets of advice, which come out every Wednesday. Anyway, back to batching. So we've taken a look at some surface work tasks that you can batch. What deep work tasks could you do all in one go? Well, writing up is one of them. If you're in the writing up headspace and you're working on your literature review during a particular deep work session, you might also want to consider writing up a few bits of your methods chapter or your introduction on the same day. because the activity of writing up involves the same kinds of thinking, no matter what you're actually writing up. Structuring is another example, planning out the structure of your chapters by writing down the headings and the subheadings. When you're doing this type of task, you are zooming out. You are taking a step back from the detail and you're thinking about how you can organise your work into headings and subheadings. So whilst you're in that headspace, make the most of it and map out multiple chapters in the same session. Cutting down your word count is another deep work task that you can batch. If you're chopping down one chapter, condensing it, getting rid of all that fluff and filler, why not do that for several chapters? Batching the deep work across different parts of your dissertation is going to help you see the bigger picture, and it will ultimately lead to you making connections that you wouldn't have made otherwise. It's going to be so helpful for generating insights that you wouldn't have developed had you sectioned them all off and worked on literature review this month, methodology that month, discussion another month. Batching is a really great thing to do because it avoids the perils of something called context switching. Context switching is when you try and do a whole host of different types of tasks in the same session. You might sit down to do some deep work, like writing up your literature review for an hour, and then you switch to a surface work task, like referencing, and then your emails start pinging, and you go and look at those for an hour. Then you try and do another 30 minutes of deep work on your literature review, and you find it really hard to get back into it. It might take you half an hour to get back in the zone, and you might not even be able to get back in the zone that day. That's because you've been context switching. You've been turning different areas of your brain on and off every time you pick up a different task, and you've worn it out. Your brain is just tired of being asked to switch direction all the time. It's kind of like a grumpy teenager.
Oh, what now? Do I have to?
Very much like the Harry Enfield character, Kevin the Teenager. Most of you are too young to remember that, but Google it for a wee giggle. So to avoid context switching, ensure that when you do sit down to do some work on your dissertation, you pick either deep work or surface work. Don't try to jump between the two, and don't throw anything else into the mix either, like emails, social media, updating your finances, cleaning your house. Is it just me, or does everyone's house become sparkly clean when there's a task that they really don't want to do? I think you can gauge how often somebody procrastinates by how clean their house is. Full disclosure, I have a very clean house. Anyway, that brings us to the end of this video, all about deep work and surface work, in which we've covered deep work, surface work, striking a balance, and batching like a badass. If you want to watch any of those sections again, scroll to the relevant chapter on the time bar below, or click on the chapter link in the description. And if you'd like tips and advice of a similar nature directly delivered to your inbox every single week, then become a Degree Doctor Insider by signing up for my email list. And if you sign up right now using the link in the description, you will get this stuff absolutely free. But you've got to promise me that you will download it and that you will use it. Also in the description are some of my favourite books about productivity, so check them out too. I'll be back soon with more dissertation advice.